everyone. This is Bruce McGuire with another edition of the Mindshock podcast. We'll be going into true crime, the Maura Murray case, one of the most mysterious disappearances on record. I'm here with my two fellow podcasters, Maxwell Powers
and Rook Davis.
And we'll be discussing Maura Murray. A quick breakdown of the case. A young woman who attended the University of Massachusetts one day just drove up to New Hampshire, which she and her family had hiked many times, so she was familiar with the area. And she supposedly spun out at a corner at anywhere between there's discrepancies with everything in this case, so it's kind of hard to say anything for sure. Around 7-something, she spun out at a corner and disappeared. So various conspiracies range from police involvement to she ran away, started a new life, to a local person abducted her.
All right.
So what's going on with it right now?
They just reopened the case, though, right?
Well, they said they reopened the case on the recent Oxygen documentary, but when the Attorney General said that they actually did not reopen the case. So
Did they ever officially close it, though?
No, he said they never officially closed it, but on the Oxygen show, they said that they were adding 3 investigative teams to it, so that was all a lie.
Was it a lie, though, or who's lying?
Well, the Oxygen Network said it. Oh, okay. Well, the Attorney General said they're not adding any extra resources, and the case has never been closed. So, the whole thing is weird. And I don't know, what did you think of the series on Oxygen Network, The Disappearance of Maura Murray?
It was pretty good because I didn't know that much about the case other than what you had told me on a quick breakdown. And even what you told me was a little more enticing than what they actually covered, because it seemed like they were pretty quick to dismiss all the viable options. They were like, oh, wasn't the police. No, police couldn't do it. Oh, wasn't the father? Wasn't the brother? Wasn't the sister? She didn't go to Canada? We don't know who it could be. She's gone.
Yeah, they skimmed over so much, and one of the although what was surprising is they were able to get interviews with the police, the Monahan guy who had never spoken on record about it before, Cecil Smith, the first officer that supposedly arrived, and Jeff Williams, the police chief at the time, who was fired for driving drunk and had a car chase with police and all this crazy stuff. Unsavory characters all around in that area.
But how long has it been? 13 years?
Yeah, 13 years.
All right, so you figure it took them 13 years to get their story straight. Yeah. And then now they came out. I mean, because seriously, like, how much time does someone need in order to get, a written, readable case scenario where they won't get tripped up and then say, I have no idea, I didn't do it, and then have a press conference? Well,
it seems like the only one of the only honest individuals in the entire fiasco is the private investigator, John Smith, who's been the family PI since the beginning, and he called them out on everything, every step of the way. Like, he interviewed the firemen that show up, all these people they didn't want to talk to, that verified that it was a sedan that stopped by that was parked next to Maura's car when she disappeared. When the police, for the first time ever, admitted that it was the SUV, even though they never asked Monahan the question of whether it was a sedan or SUV. So they're all lying about everything. And then the host of the show, was it the Roderick U.S. Marshal? And
she was kind of hot, though.
And Maggie.
Did you notice that she put on a significant amount of weight between the next to last and the last show? So that makes me wonder how long in between.
I think 6 months
in between the last show and this show.
She gained weight.
I think 6 months. I think it took them quite a few months to do the documentary.
Because episode 5, she was all slim and slamming, and episode
You're talking about 6, the show, right?
She was her thighs.
But anyway, and then she went on a tirade on Twitter or Facebook, I think, that said that the police have all this information they shared with them but can't share with the public, and that we're supposed to just take the word of the police, which is really, really stupid. But then, there's obviously some weird conspiracy cover-up going on, regardless of what really happened to her, because I mean, like every single point, like Cecil Smith said that he didn't know Butch Atwood. Nobody asked him if he knew Butch Atwood. That this bus driver, for those that don't know, he was supposedly the last person to see her alive. He pulled up to her and asked her if she needed to call the police or whatever to go to his house to warm up. Whatever. She said no, she doesn't need any assistance. She already called AAA, but there's no cell service in the area even today, so there definitely wasn't in 2004 when she went missing. And like there's actual videos of interviews with him where he said that she wasn't drunk and she had her hair down. The other thing about the show is they finally released the ATM video. They refused to release for like 13 years.
She looked like she was worried about something. That wasn't her normal smiley face.
And her hair was up and it's always up. So everybody that knew her said she always wear her hair up, never down. Butch Atwood said her hair was down, and the very first time he was interviewed, he was shown a picture of her, and he said it wasn't her.
I was just gonna say I got a new conspiracy. What if the girl who that stopped and asked if she needed help, what if the girl he saw wasn't her? What if it was the co-driver?
That was one of the prevalent theories. The other problems with the case, the Westmans.
Wait, let me ask you a question. The girl that they couldn't interview, remember the interviewer went to her house and knocked on her door and called her.
Kate Markopoulos.
Did we see pictures of her? Did they show her photos?
I think she might have been in some of the photos where it was more with her friends.
So what if it was her that the guy saw?
That's one of the viable theories, because there were rumors that she was not at school for a few days. Her name, I think, is Kate Markopoulos and Sarah Alfieri or something like that. Were her two best friends. They didn't interview them for the show, and they knew more than what they were telling. And there was a party or whatever. There was so many different avenues of this. But going back a second with the Westmans, the neighbors that were right in front of where the car accident happened, when they called the police, in the call log, it said that they saw a man smoking a cigarette moving around the trunk or sitting in the car, and then there was activity at the trunk, whatever. And so that would also make sense, because why would they come out and assist if it's just a man? Where if it was a young girl alone, like, I don't know, they probably would have went out to see what happened. It was in the dark, it's cold.
And what if the tandem driver was the guy and not Maura, and Maura was in the trunk?
Yeah, there you go. Well, there's a lot of theories that she never made it up there. And at the beginning of the Oxygen show, they actually mentioned it like once. I think Art said, I'm not even sure if it was her up there, but then they completely abandoned it, and they never investigated all of the weirdness that happened at UMass and all of these weird connections. They never even mentioned a hit and run. Some student named Vassie. He was hit by a car. There were like 8 hit and runs that year at UMass too.
All right,
and then there was possible campus police involvement, and then Maura got into a car accident like pretty recently.
Totaling her father's car, doing $9,000.
And supposedly she was drunk, but then she wasn't arrested. And then there was some police cadet on the scene that actually called the police, and they've never released his name.
All right.
Hold on. There's a lot of weirdness.
These are all salient points and like really good conversation, but I have to go back to the interviewer. All right. They went up to investigate the coordinates, and like we can talk about the coordinates later, because I have like a million questions about that, because that I like so much. Like, you know, people threatening, people like looking in on their emails. They didn't tell anybody, and people knew and sent the warnings, but whatever. So 7 hours hike up into the mountains, like crazy steep trails. Like, look, if the three of us, if I was like, yo, let's go for a walk. We're going to walk on flat terrain, on sidewalks and grass, and let's walk 7 miles. Like at the end of 7 miles, like I'd be complaining. I'd be like, you know something, that was fucked up. That was a long walk. My legs hurt. That was rough. Now that girl, who's not a hiker, hiked straight up the damn mountain, crawled through shit. Like, you're telling me she made 7 hours straight uphill through the wood? I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. They were like airlifted in or something. You saw like no, seriously. 7 hours. Have you guys walked 7 hours? 7 hour walk is rough. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
It's terrible. You can't move the next day.
It's rough. She's all tattooed, all her slamming little hot body, sitting around like this, typing on her keyboard, and she just threw on a backpack and walked 7 hours up through the mountains. It's a conspiracy theory in itself. I'm not buying it. And then the other guy who like eats donuts, drinks coffee, and sits next to her, and he's like, oh, let's investigate that. He walked 7 hours uphill. The only one I believe, did you see the guide's calf muscles?
Yeah.
Like, I was watching, I looked over, and the guide had calves the size of trees. So I believe him, but the rest of I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. They walked 3 feet into the woods, pretended it was the coordinates, shot from 3 different angles, and said she's not here. All right, sorry. Anyway.
The funniest part was they were like, don't touch anything. And then they were touching everything.
Oh, they touched everything. What's that down there? There. And they the first thing, he pulls out the little shovel, and he's like, what, this?
Is this still the show?
Yeah, it's a show.
I missed everything.
All right, so the investigation to UMass, like Maggie went, the host of the show, she went to UMass. The producer of the Oxygen network, of the show on Oxygen, went to UMass. There's all these weird connections everywhere. So the hit and run that was mentioned, the guy that got hit and run, that was the Monday, like that was however many days before, and the day she went missing, or the day before that, was when the university released the information on it that they were looking for the person or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went missing right away there. There's like a bunch of different theories where like it was also the last day to drop classes and get a refund. All this weird stuff. And
Well, she did her homework.
Yeah, supposedly. Like a lot of the case, you have to take people's word for stuff,
Yeah.
which is a huge problem because you don't know what really happened. And then the police have already lied about a million different things. And then and they just continue to do so they can't be trusted. So nobody really knows what happened. There's like a rumor that one guy like poured a concrete foundation in the winter and never said why, never let the police search his property. I don't think they released his name. And some other cop said that they know exactly who did it and all this stuff. And now the recent bombshell, some witnesses, some woman came forth and said that Billy Roush, Maura's ex-boyfriend, or boyfriend at the time, they said that he said something like I'll kill you, like I killed Maura Murray.
Who did
Like
you say that to?
I don't think they released their names. Like some girls.
Was he at a
went out
bar or something?
either at a bar or or I don't know, somewhere, or ex-girlfriends, whatever. And so and then the weird thing about Billy is the amount of phone calls he had the day she went missing and the day before. I don't know, like 50, 80, whatever, like an insane amount of phone calls.
And they were never able to interview him for the documentary, right? Or the
Correct. For the Oxygen didn't, but he had that other guy speak for him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the rabbit hole goes deep.
And he's married now, right?
Yeah, he's married with kids, I think.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to be involved at all. But and so James Renner, the reporter, he wrote a book about the Maura Murray case where he threw a lot of accusations at a lot of different people. And he basically was convinced that there was a tandem driver and that they took her to Canada and she started a new life or whatever.
Yeah.
But now he's the one that broke this news. So now I guess he doesn't believe that anymore.
But all right.
Wait, he's the one that broke what news?
The news that
Boyfriend.
people were about Billy saying that he was going to kill someone like he killed Maura Murray. And so he came up to
Did
the
you say
search.
something about Scott Peterson too?
Oh yeah, when he was first interviewed by the police, when he came, so Maura goes missing in Haverhill, New Hampshire. He flies in like the next day or the day after, and when the police interview him for like hours, and then afterwards he makes some statement like, "I feel like Scott Peterson" or something.
Oh, jeez.
Messed up. So then he doesn't stick with the search party. He goes off and drives on his own, going to Vermont, Maine, all these places, and they have his phone records. And then apparently he calls Maura's phone, and there's like a several minute interval where some people say he might have talked to her, found out where she was, and then killed her or whatever. So everybody's alibi on the day of her disappearance means nothing.
But what about if he was just leaving a message?
He could have been, but that's a pretty long message to leave. And her phone had been blown up so many times, she probably wouldn't have had any room in her voicemail anyway. So his mother, Billy's mother, Sharon had been supposedly cooperative with everybody, and she was on a bunch of the initial documentaries after Maura went missing. And she released their phone records because Billy's family had bought Maura's cell phone for her. So they got the bill. So they have the full record of all the calls and everything. And they said she released everything except the last page of Maura's roaming calls, which would have shown if she had picked up the phone.
And what I was saying earlier, though, but can't the police subpoena all the cell phone
So
records?
they probably
have it.
did, but that's never been released. They have like thousands of files on Maura, and anytime somebody files a Freedom of Information Act request, they say there are no files. And then in other statements, they say that Maura's file is the biggest file in New Hampshire state history. So they lie about everything all the time.
All right. Now, we skipped around a lot, and
Yeah, we did.
and some of the most interesting things are the things that they wrote off as dead ends that I don't know about, and I want to ask
Like what?
you because you seem to be up to date and current on all of this Maura Murray shiznat. All right, so I got to go back to the fake mountain climbing where they didn't really climb the mountain, because I'm not believing that little girl climbed. And you want to know something? If her thighs were twice the size that they were in episode 6 as in episode 5, that means she wasn't as in good a shape. So how is she just going to get up from her computer and walk 7 hours up into the... All right, anyway. So they got coordinates from an unknown... Someone just emailed the two bloggers the coordinates.
No, so supposedly they emailed James Renner, the reporter that wrote the
Okay.
book, the coordinates that she was there.
Okay.
Nobody had checked the coordinates for years.
And then the bloggers got it.
In like 2014. I believe James Renner shared it with them, I think. And then
Okay.
when they went to check them out, they got threatening emails, so they
Yeah.
abandoned the search.
And they didn't even go. So
Right.
that seems really strange, because it was enough to unnerve them to the point where they were like, you know something, fuck this, I'm not going.
Well, there's a whole lot to that backstory, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
All right.
They were involved with a very shady character who was submitting them with information on the case.
Uh-huh.
And he was even on their podcast, and I think they removed the episode and then
So
they brought
who
it
is
back.
he? Who is, what?
I don't know his real name. I think he called himself Cold.
Oh, that's kind of nasty.
Yeah, and he had a blog. I think it's still up, and there's actually a lot of good information on it. But supposedly, I don't know, the podcast just said he was completely insane, and he was the only one who knew that they were going up. So they think that he set them up, and he was sending them all these weird
Yeah.
images, messages, and then they just called it off because they were so
Okay, yeah,
creeped out.
because the documentary
And then-
didn't say anything about him.
No. Well, they left out a ton of stuff. This case has the most rabbit holes out of any missing person case I have ever seen before.
Okay, and so then they give the information to the new documentary. They're like, oh, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then they go, and the day of their expedition, they get emails.
So
warning
that's
them
so
again.
that's so highly suspect. Some people think the producer of the show sent them those emails and without telling them, so that way it would freak it out and create more drama. But so we don't know. The other
That's
thing
really
is
cool.
the
That's
coordinates.
nasty.
The coordinates are. Some people were saying the coordinates were different than the original coordinates that
Okay.
were sent, so they checked the wrong ones. I don't know. I didn't
Okay,
check that.
but if you look at the documentary, the lady who was hiking all by herself, who took pictures of the ribbons that were up there, it looked like a trail.
Yeah,
and
it looked
then-
like a different spot.
And then when they went there,
Yeah.
it was like on a slope with like
Yeah, so there's a lot of weird
that was
stuff.
different.
Yeah, everything is different and weird. Maybe those other coordinates were, I don't know. But I don't know.
You know, because that was so interesting because then, you know, they were talking about, okay, 7 hours uphill into the woods where little teeny documentary lady wouldn't have been able to go on her own. They're like, if Maura walked with whoever killed her, they could walk in. But I mean, if you know, even
Yeah.
if someone's willing,
All right, let's.
I've never been able to get a girl to walk 7 miles uphill into the woods, even when they wanted to. An hour in, they're like, fuck it, I'm going home.
There's another thing they didn't talk about. This guy named Alden Olson, who's this kind of, I don't know, people think he's weird. He's really smart. He had his own blog, and he made a bunch of videos laughing that said happy anniversary on when she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of videos, and the police investigated him. He also threatened to kill one of his family members and all this weird stuff. And he actually went to the University of Massachusetts and
Another-
investigated. What?
Oh,
No. He didn't
oh,
actually
he
attend
didn't
there.
go.
He's not an alum. He physically
Yeah,
visited the university to ask questions, and he was immediately arrested and banned from the premises. So, because he was asking, I think he wanted to find out the name of the cadet, and he came up with theories ranging from the assistant track coach who Maura dated. who was involved with some kind of top secret Department of Defense
What the-
biology program into like either human cloning or something weird like that. And it was like, it was weird how it was like, there's actually something to it. And then, but either way, whether he believed it or not. And then they also brought up the confidential informant program at UMass, where a student actually died and it was all over the news. But this was around the time. So they were saying, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff they didn't go into.
Now, another really interesting thing, back on topic, what about the coordinates? And they're like, the guy who died, because that guy did die. And
Wait, which guy?
The guy in the township who died, and it was, they don't know how he died or who killed him. Like, someone shoot him in his front yard?
Yeah,
and then they were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, you're gonna die just like this guy died, and
Yeah,
and they were
yeah.
trying to connect it, because that's kind of
Yeah.
messed up. Do you have any information on him?
There's
for
nothing. There's nothing, man.
Because that's crazy.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, there's so many different rabbit holes. We'd probably have to do a follow-up episode on this one once more information comes out, because we can't even go over everything here. But
Because that guy, they were like,
There's-
it's unsolved. They're like, oh, someone killed him in his front yard.
oh, okay? Let me go down another rabbit hole.
All right.
So at the town meeting
Mm-hmm.
in Haverhill,
Mm-hmm.
they were discussing
Look up her brother,
their
Maxwell.
they were on record of the town meeting minutes
Mm-hmm.
discussing their human trafficking problem.
Oh, well, then if she was
yeah.
kidnapped by the Saudi
Yeah.
royal family,
I mean, there's so many problems with this case. Like, and even basic things, the chain of custody of her things, like the car.
this is gonna be terrible.
What do we go? We went over a lot of the main bullet points. Oh, the Alden Olsen guy. Yeah. Oh, so we went to the Department of Defense. Okay, so CI program. And so the last point is, so out of all the circling back to the beginning,
Okay.
the new news about Billy Roush and allegedly how he said he's going to kill someone like he killed Maura Murray. He made like dozens and dozens of phone calls. Like, how many phone calls do you make a day? 80? So his average was
I don't
probably
make
a little
80
high.
phone calls.
I know. I'm just saying that's how much he does. Like, he's supposed to be in the military working. How does he have time to sit there all day making phone calls? Like, this is his personal phone. So, they have the record, so they know who he's making the phone calls to.
That's true.
At West Point, he was friends with a lot of people at West Point, a lot of professors there, whatever.
Mhm.
And he called a lot of them, and coincidentally, that day or the day before she went missing, or possibly even that day, was when Donald Rumsfeld opened up a huge sexual assault scandal investigation at West Point.
That's crazy. I didn't hear about any of
What a
that.
coincidence. So supposedly, and so Maura went to West Point her freshman year, and then a lot of different stories on why she transferred, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
And so,
So it's
and
like
also
right
just
around.
to try to round out the info, her older sister
Mhm.
works for the CIA. Well, and remember when you asked about the police investigating the phone calls,
Mhm.
you want to know how incompetent they are?
How?
They never even checked the last place she called because she was trying to get reservations in that area
Mhm.
until like 8 months later. And the lady they called didn't remember the phone call because that's her business. Like, she talks to a million people every day. And she if only the police had asked me like within a reasonable amount of time, she would have remembered the phone call.
I was looking around.
I said, how the police are, you asked about the police and the phone records,
Yes.
checking it out.
Yeah, and they should have been
They
able to
didn't,
subpoena them.
yeah, right. But they never even checked out the last place she called because she was trying to make a reservation.
Right,
So
yeah.
they have her phone bill. She's trying to make a reservation at
Where?
a hotel or
Where?
in that area.
In
that
that
she's
area?
trying, well, not in the exact area,
Mhm.
in New Hampshire, Vermont.
Okay.
And they never even checked. So like 8 months later, like 8 months or whatever,
Mhm.
how many months? I don't know, a year or 2 years. I don't know, 8 months. However much.
Because it could be messed up if she was living in that hotel the whole time and all that. And she's like, "Why didn't you just check my reservations?"
Oh, that is messed up. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's how the police investigated the case,
Yeah.
and the reckless abandon in which they treated the chain
Chain of evidence.
chain of custody of the evidence
Yeah.
is like they actually gave back her things to her sister,
Mm-hmm.
to her other sister, and
Well, did
then
you-
they took them back.
Well, did
So
you?
then they could never prove it connected anyway.
Yeah, but did you see when they went to look at her car? There was still some stuff in her
Oh,
car.
yeah.
Like they didn't take everything out and bag it. Like they should have taken everything out of the car and bagged it. and swept it for fingerprints. And I don't know.
Well, at the time, they thought it was a drunk driver wandered away that would come back. So
but once the investigation's open and you know it's a missing person, then they should bag everything in that car.
But they gave it back to the family, and then however many months later, they came and took it back from the house.
Yeah, you don't even know if that's the same stuff.
The chain of custody completely broken.
It's broken.
Yeah, but that means they must have found something out.
Oh, and
they wanted it back. No, as if like to cover their own tracks.
To cover their own tracks.
Yes.
Yeah, that's messed up. But they're devious bastards anyway. All right, I have another question then. All right, we didn't talk about the knife. So who gave? All right, so somebody who gave the father the knife?
So there's two brothers.
Was it the A-frame house?
Maybe.
Was it the two? Did the two brothers live in the A-frame house? Or did
I don't remember.
All right. Just to clarify, the A-frame house is where they got the blood out of the closet that the cadaver dog said this is where somebody was.
Right.
Okay, and then two brothers. Who were the two brothers?
I forgot their names. But one of them died, and on his deathbed, he confessed, and he told them where the weapon was. So he gave it to Fred Murray, the father, who gave it to the police. And initially, the police said they never received anything. And then however much longer later, they're like, oh, yeah, we got the knife, but we can't disclose whether we even tested it or not, much less what the results would have been.
If I was the father, I'd be so upset.
Oh, he sued the state of New Hampshire a bunch of times. Yeah, I think he won once, and then he lost other times. And they said they won't release the evidence because it'll compromise a case. And he's like, "What case? You guys don't know anything. You're not going to make."
Did he get money?
The father?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he got any money.
So what did he win?
They gave him a couple of files. They gave him an X amount of files out of the whole.
He sued for
information because he's like, "You guys aren't going to find my daughter. I'll find her because you're just sitting on all this stuff, and you know." So obviously, a lot of people think the police were definitely involved, or someone.
And what about the police officer? Who was it? The chief of police who had been arrested himself
Jeff Williams,
for drinking and driving.
And you want to hear something funny? Supposedly on the police scanner, the Williams or another vehicle was driving drunk, ended up in a ditch, and Cecil
earlier,
Smith,
right? Was that earlier?
a little 20 minutes earlier.
And the other tow truck guy pulled him out.
I forgot. But supposedly Cecil Smith was also on the scene, and either they switched vehicles. There was some funny business. There was a lot of funny business. And some people say that Maura Murray was driving erratically because the vehicle was compromised. It was only driving on like half the cylinders or whatever. And apparently some people think that she encountered the police officer previously, and then she was running from him because he either tried to kill her or whatever, or tase her. There was a police officer in the area who was notorious for tasing like women and like unsuspecting elderly people for no reason when you pulled him over. His name was Bruce McKay, and there's a whole file on him. And apparently he was related to like some higher up judge that always let him get off until some local shot him. And then a different local.
How bad did they shoot him?
They shot him in the head. He's dead.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and then supposedly one of McKay's this ex-con who McKay was involved, who supposedly they tag team people, whatever, they were involved together in some way. He shot the guy that shot McKay. He just pulled up and shot him.
Oh shit!
Like right after he shot McKay. So. Yeah, I mean that whole, and they lived like less than half a mile from where Maura Murray disappeared.
This
never ends.
This is like the Kennedy assassination.
Oh yeah, it's much worse. It's much worse. It never ends.
Lee Harvey Oswald has to get shot.
Oh yeah, we got to do an episode on that.
Oh my god!
Got still have to go through all the new files on that one.
Oh jeez, yeah.
There's new files on.
Oh yeah,
they released a bunch. Yeah.
About Oswald and shit.
Yeah,
the Kennedy assassination.
When was this?
Last 2 weeks ago.
Didn't they just release some more?
Trump signed off on it, and they were supposed to release all of it. Trump said release all of it, and then the CIA overrode him, who's the president of the United States. You're not supposed to be able to do it, and they withheld, I believe, 33,000 emails or whatever.
Or didn't they release some of it again? That there was a second stage release or not?
Yeah, I
so
think
how much is released,
right.
like percentage wise?
I think in 6 months there's 6% more, which is like 3,000 more pages or something like that. It's something crazy. They released 33,000 pages and they have 6,000 pages more or something. But they didn't release all of it. But the thing is after 50 years or however many years.
Yeah, all the people that fucking were conspirators were fucking dead.
Yeah, but the thing is so when did he die? 1963, I guess. So after all of that time, the CIA now says, oh, we need to withhold this many pages and go through them again and redact more shit. But that, and so now in 6 months, we'll get the rest of the pages after the CIA spent 6 months trying to go through it again. So that's kind of messed up. But anyway, all right, we'll do an episode
So
on that
when
later.
when is this available? Or like when or where? Is
It's already out. Just go on the internet and say Kennedy,
okay, that's cool. So I can read up a little bit.
Oh yeah, or it's really good. Just go to the History Channel and no, I'm
they
serious.
put it up already?
No, they have a documentary on Lee Harvey Oswald or whatever. And
Wait, why that? That's old. That's not the new files.
yeah, but the Freedom of Information Act, they were able to get a lot of the files already, and they went on foot and investigated him because he went to Cuba, he went to Russia, his wife was still alive. So I mean, there's a lot of things that you can just do by tracking him.
Shit.
But anyway, hold on.
That's a good.
Right, we got to finish up the Maura Murray. So
Yeah, we have to go back to her. So, oh my God. So so all of those people, the one guy who tased people got shot in the head, and then the guy who was supposedly his partner shot the guy who shot him.
yeah,
So now the partner's
and
still
this is actually a really creepy story. Yes, the partner's still alive, but he had a passenger. The guy they shot, it was a guy McKay had been harassing, like a local kid. He was like, I don't know how old he was. Apparently, he just got fed up, pulled out a gun, and shot him because he had been getting harassed for so long.
Yeah.
And he thought McKay was going to kill him, so he shot him. And he had a passenger. And when McKay's
was Maura Murray.
no. When McKay's partner went up and shot him, he walked up to the driver's side, shot him in the head, and then told the passenger pick up the gun. He told him to pick up the gun because he wanted to shoot him.
Yeah.
And the guy's sitting there petrified, and he's just shaking his head. He's not going to pick it up.
And do you know who the passenger is?
Yeah, they have all the names out. There's a video of the whole incident.
Oh,
There's
shit.
a video of the entire incident.
And so it's like, did that guy go to jail? Oh, he got killed. That guy, the guy who shot McCabe.
Yeah, his name was Lino Kenny, I think.
Oh, so he got killed.
Yeah.
And the guy who killed him, where's the guy who killed him?
I forget his name. I think he's still alive. Yeah.
And where's the passenger?
I think he's still alive too.
Yeah, they need to change their names and move. That's some fucked up shit.
and they this was all in the neighborhood. This was all in the neighborhood.
I know. And then the guy who got shot on his front lawn, they don't know who the hell he was and how.
Oh, no, it gets worse too. And the people that say there would never be a police conspiracy, like the year before or the year after, some cop was drunk driving and killed a girl walking on the street in that same town.
Yeah.
And he got some safety award that right after, I think.
And
Well, he was nominated for it beforehand, but then he still accepted it. He showed up and accepted police safety excellence or something.
I mean, it's so funny when
It's
messed up.
right after.
Like a week after, yeah.
A
week or two after,
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
I mean, he was nominated for it before the accident, but still.
because it could be as simple as the police chief was driving drunk, hit the car, killed Maura Murray, and they were trying, and then they had to call in the other tow truck guy because the first tow truck guy they knew would rat them out, so they got the second tow truck guy,
and there was also a bunch of witnesses at the scene that have never come forth. There were people standing around that have never come forth.
And then and obviously the cigarette man from X-Files was there because he's running the cover up, and so then the police take her body and then they hire the guy to pour the concrete in his yard, and that's why he never has to let them.
But you know
search the
something?
yard. And but I'm just saying. And and now they know all of this, and then they hire somebody to give their fishing knife to the father, and then the father says, "Oh, I have the knife," and then he gives it to police, and that's just a red herring. And so they killed her that night.
But you know
they
what else
buried
doesn't
her.
make
It's
sense?
over. It's over.
You know what else? Why was
happened.
Billy making like 80 phone calls the day before she disappeared?
asking for his payoff money because the cops killed her.
No, before she died, though. This is 2 days beforehand. And he's calling all those people at West Point. How does that connect to that investigation? There's some unanswered questions here. There's some things that don't make sense.
Yeah, but it's so messed up because, like, if you look at people's lives and you look at where they crisscross, like right now, the three of us are together. When I go home, I'm going to call all kinds of people and text all kinds of shit and go on PlayStation. And like, if people go off on a tangent and they're like, "Why was he on PlayStation for so long? Does this have
but you know what's funny
do with the disappearance of Mac in his van?"
But look
it had nothing to do with it.
But look at any other case. There's like one or two little rabbit holes like this. In this one, there's like 50, like every single where and there's even more we didn't even talk about.
Well, I know because we can't find her. So once we can't find her,
no, but yeah, so like there's one theory that she was responsible for the hit and run, and that's why she ran away. Because that morning or the morning before is when the university
Because
made it public.
when she disappeared, was it 2006?
2004.
2004. So back then there was still like some crazy sex line phones. So her pervert boyfriend was just dialing up.
No. They have They have the numbers he dialed. It was people who lived in the area of West Point, and even I think one or two family friends who were in the area of New Hampshire. Like
is Maura there, or can I hide Maura on your property? I mean, those would be the two questions. Have you seen Maura?
No, but he talked to her. No, he talked to her the night before, so he knew she was still at UMass.
Oh, so he called people in the area before she got to New Hampshire?
Yes.
And so...
Well, he called mostly, I think, West Point people, and he was on the phone for them for hours. But people who knew Maura, though, that's the thing. He didn't call people who didn't know Maura.
Yeah, and, all right, now were they weren't broken up, though?
No.
So... Why would you think he'd be calling people?
Well, nobody knows because his volume of calls, like, again, if he normally made that many calls per day, nothing unusual.
Yeah,
but when you normally only make and one of the days,
to find her?
No, he knew where she was though at the time. Because it was the day before too. It wasn't just the day. It was the day before when everyone knew where she was.
Okay, well
she was accounted for.
Then what do you think he was calling them for?
I have no clue.
Like, why would? All right, like.
And some of them he spent on the phone with hours on.
But did he? All right. Logically, if you're going to be
it had to have been related to the West Point scandal, right?
Well, yeah, but if you're all right, wait, hold on though. If you're going out with some hot skinny little girl and you think she's cheating on you, you're going to call all of her friends the day before.
He's calling like professors at West Point though.
Yeah, but why would they take his call? Why would a professor?
Because he was friends with them.
Okay, well, have you seen Maura? As Maura?
No, but they know where she.
Yeah, I know, but if he suspects that she's cheating on him, or he suspects that she's going to go on a road trip with somebody else, like
what would cause him to suspect that?
Well, because if their relationship was contentious or something, you know what I mean? Like he's investigating. Like, haven't you ever seen guys go crazy when they think their girlfriend's stepping out on them? They make 80 phone calls a day, and they call all the friends. So he might have been calling the professors. He's like, "Yo, man, I took your class. You remember me?" They're like, "Oh yeah, we're buddies."
Something was definitely going on.
Have you seen Maura? Have you seen Maura? Was she with anybody? You know, is she? I mean, when someone thinks the other is cheating, guy or girl, they ask a million questions. They ask everybody. You know.
All right, so I guess we'll end it with this.
Wait, hold on, let me think. I had another question that probably only you could answer, and I have to retrace back through. All right. The ATM machine, she didn't look happy.
Yeah,
she looked a little forlorn. There was
she just got into a car accident like days before and totaled her dad's car, and supposedly, obviously he wasn't happy about it, but.
And then her trip up there was a missing hour, so she could have stopped and ate like the
other people. No, but other people say that she would have never taken the main road, so she took back roads because that vehicle couldn't maintain the speed. That easily explains it because you can't. Why would she take that car on the highway anyway if it's not running?
Okay,
right?
And what about the workers at the ski
mountain?
lodge?
Nobody ever it was like a rumor.
No one ever talked to them.
No, I don't know. I don't even know if they have their. I mean, some people say they have the names. Oh, and there was another comment on Facebook recently about some lady that said her ex killed Maura or something. But then, and it was weird. But whatever.
Wait until that gets substantiated. Yeah. Okay, now the last one. What about? Did you ever watch the show Medium?
No.
The TV show that it was based on.
No.
Now, what about her? That was pretty crazy.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Because on the documentary, they called in the psychic.
Oh, the psychic.
And the TV show Medium was based on her life.
On the psychic's life. Yeah, right.
So they had the whole. Now she came up with all kinds of information, like she was channeling, a
bunch of psychics came up. I forgot what the name was. They came up with some guy's name that they said did it.
Oh, Ben.
Was it Ben?
I listened to a podcast or some shit.
Oh, so it was Ben?
So way down here.
Okay.
Yeah, Max.
It was Ben or something.
Yeah, it might have been.
But I thought it was pretty interesting because, I mean, obviously she could have done her homework. Like she could have said, they're going to add, they're looking at this, they're investigating that. Maybe she did her information or did her research, but she was pretty concise about, the situation.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, Yeah.
Well, the problem I had with a dog search and all that stuff is because they used gloves for her scent that she might have never worn, and they performed the search so much later, where the wind kicked everything around. Like it was, but the other thing, it was right in front of Butch Atwood's house, so he definitely saw who took her. He definitely saw, and he was afraid. So if people were saying if it was Bruce McKay or one of the crazy, unhinged local cops, he would never say.
Yeah.
Because he would be afraid for his life. And that's what one of the first PIs that investigated the case, that was his conclusion, that he did see who took her, and he's too scared to talk. And now he's dead. And for some reason, I don't think they interviewed his wife.
You mean,
He's still alive.
is that the bus driver?
Yeah, Butch Atwood.
Yeah.
And he gave, he had lie detector tests. Some he passed, some he failed, but he has a heart condition, so whatever.
Yeah.
And he did change his story a couple times, too. So the whole thing.
What did he say?
I don't remember. I think one time he said she was standing outside the car. The other time she was sitting, airbag on, airbag off, whatever. Just a lot of weird
What
stuff.
about the rag in the tailpipe?
Well, supposedly that was completely answered. The father told her to put it in there so the cops wouldn't see it smoking. So, I mean, that fits. You know what's real weird though? Like that tow truck driver, that guy took the car to his house, and then when the father showed up, I think it was Friday the 13th, he told the father to pull it out. And then they ended up removing the entire exhaust system for evidence, like just a couple years ago. So they waited like 10 years or whatever, and then they removed the entire exhaust system for investigation.
Do you know that my friend did something like that?
What?
And I won't say who he is because they'll cross-reference him and they'll figure out who it was. And it happened right here. He had this car called the Golden Rat, and it was this car that had been spray painted gold, metallic gold, and it was like a piece of shit car. And he couldn't get the thing to stop smoking. Like the tailpipe would smoke terrible. And so he got this potato and he shoved it all the way into the tailpipe. And when you shove a potato in, the tailpipe shaves off, planes off any excess, so it fits flush.
Yeah.
And then he got like a stick and pushed the potato back out of sight up into the tailpipe. And I believe he told me there were some kind of Arab guys, because then he was really worried. So I was at my house watching, television as I'm wont to do, and all of a sudden there's this banging on my door. Bang, 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 bang. Because this was before cell phones. And so it's like bang, bang, bang. And I lived over there on the other side of where we were through the woods as an apartment complex. I lived over there at the time. And he's banging on my back door. And he's like, dude, man, they're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. He's like, these bunch of Arabs are after me and they're going to kill me. And I'm like, why? He's like, I sold them the Golden Rat. And I'm like, what?
God.
He's like, it's good for like maybe a mile. And then it's going to be bad, dude. It's going to be bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I shoved the potato up the tailpipe and then I sold it to them. And he's like, I dropped it off right here. So he sold it to them over there in that village, the C village over there. Yeah. He dropped it off there. They took it. They bought it. They gave him the money. And then he ran through the woods. And that was before AA was there.
Yeah.
And he got to my house and he's like, they're going to kill me. I have to hide here. And so we got in my car and we drove over, and they didn't even make it a mile. And the whole cabin filled up with smoke, and the car was parked. The doors were open, and I guess it had backed up so bad it had burst underneath and it filled the cabin with smoke. And oh my God, yeah. So that tailpipe thing only works for a short amount of time.
So that was that, but like chain of custody again, they're having him handle it instead of the whole thing is just completely messed up. So, but hopefully the one good thing the TV show did is it brought more awareness to it. So hopefully they actually find out what happens. It'll put pressure on people and whatever. And if it was Billy,
Well, they misled me on the DNA results because they're like, oh my God, did you tell the cops? And then they're like, oh, it's inconclusive.
Yeah.
But did they even compare it to Maura Murray's? Because they pretended, they go, okay, we were able to get this number on the DNA test. Do you remember they brought it back and they said, it's, this was degraded, but we were able to get this number. And if this number matches the Maura Murray number, and then they were like, oh, it's inconclusive. Now, they definitively had a number, and they never told us if that number matched Maura Murray's number.
Well, I think they said there wasn't enough information.
Yeah, but they said they had the two strands or whatever, and they said this side was kind of inconclusive, but they were able to definitively come up with this marker, and they said this number, and it was like 1-5. And
So
then,
it
like,
could have been her, or it could have been a bunch of other people also that had the same marker. That's the way I took it.
And then they said we need to compare this number to Maura Murray's number.
No, I don't think they said that.
And they said
I think they said that they need to rule out the other DNA that's also on it because
and that's why I got confused, because they said the one side as a whole it was degraded, but they were able to come up with one definitive marker.
Well, here I'm going to tell you something. I think the whole thing is moot because they just had a ruling in New York State that proved that DNA tests are not reliable and they don't show what they say they show. So the way they
but that's a conspiracy theory.
They're repealing. Yeah, but they're repealing the law. No, but they're repealing that whole law because with the new technology and the way they know it really works now, they can show how all of the DNA tests. I mean, it could have been the person because the DNA can match, but there is no conclusivity to the test. And it doesn't mean it was them. So where they think there was like a 99.9% match, it's really only like a 50%.
Okay.
So it doesn't rule them out, but it doesn't prove they did it.
I still want to see Maura Murray's, that number, and compare it. And I want to see if that could have been her number, because they didn't go back over that number. And
I believe they said something where they couldn't isolate it enough.
Well, because, but when they got the results, they had that 1-5 whatever number. And they said, we have to check this number with Maura Murray's number. Then they called the guy who was the custodian of her. And I'm like, why did they call that guy? Why didn't they just go to the father and say, let's get a hairbrush. Let's go in her bedroom and get like they didn't even do that. And then they were like, oh, it's inconclusive because the test wasn't just going. I'm like,
I just remembered one more. I just remembered one more.
They brushed it off.
Yeah, well, they did that with everything in the show. Basically, they never went all the way with any of it. There was something there was one more point. Oh, at the party, the last party she went to at the dorm, one of the friends said she left with a guy. And they were supposedly the guy might have been one of the cousins of her two friends at UMass, and they never released his name ever.
But didn't they say that there was some question as to the guys she was talking to? They said her friends knew that these guys were sketchy characters. The guy she was seeing was a sketchy character who was kind of prone to date rape or something like that.
Something like that. And then the other problem is there's no proof she ever got her cell phone back because she left her cell phone at the dorm room. And the other super weird thing I didn't mention earlier, nobody even saw her the day she went missing. So other than the ATM
video, because she dropped off the other girl's clothes or whatever, but she knocked, but then the girl
supposedly,
didn't answer. But the girl didn't answer the door anyway.
And I still want proof that was really that girl. So they interviewed the girl on the Oxygen show. Mm-hmm. How do we know that was really her, though? Well, especially if it was well, the police officer were really them because they have all those photos on file. But that roommate or whatever, that girl at the dorm or the apartment, there's no real proof that was really her. But anyway, whatever. So it's just kind of weird. It's kind of convenient that nobody saw her that day. Nobody can verify that she was even at UMass.
Oh, that's like
nobody can verify that she even drove her car up to.
That's like Robert Durst's wife. They're like, oh, she went to school.
Oh yeah.
But nobody saw her.
We'll have to do it. We'll have to do the next one on that. But
nobody saw her, and nobody knows, and he set up like all these red herrings.
But so this was our true crime edition of the podcast, and so we're signing off, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right, this is Rick Davis saying goodbye.
Maxwell Powers
out.